Hello, and thanks for joining us on yet another edition of the program Press Forum. But on today's edition of the program, we shall be retrospecting on the major events that happened in 2018. And of course, we have already been doing so in just a week. We have gone as far as June. Today's edition of the program, we shall continue analyzing and giving our opinions on some of the major events that characterize the media landscape, media discussion in 2018, beginning from June. And we have quite a lot for you. We shall be discussing the government's plan humanitarian or emergency humanitarian action on the Northwest and Southwest region that was created on Wednesday, the 13th of June 2018. We shall also be talking about the 2018 presidential elections that, of course, saw the new old president Paul Biya winning overwhelmingly against all odds. But most especially, we shall be talking about the ghost town syndrome that resurfaced from the 2nd of July 2018 across the Northwest and Southwest region. It's been very effective since Monday, the 2nd of July 2018. Well, you know, it is there's no gainsaying that nothing happens. Eventually, all business or economic activities are grounded in the Northwest and Southwest region on Monday. So we shall be talking about that. We say thanks for joining us once again. We have quite a very crack team of resource persons who shall be, of course, sharing their opinions and thoughts on some of these things we told you already. I go straight away to introducing them because we have to kickstart quite eventually. We have on the panel Mr. George Mufo. Mr. George Mufo is an educationist. He is a well-grounded mind when it comes to issues of youth entrepreneurship, when it comes to things of social entrepreneurship. And what of you? He's joining us here to share his thoughts on some of the major issues we shall be talking here today. Thanks for coming, sir.
Thanks again, Yanick, for welcoming me. I hope we are going to have a great program, and I wish to say season's greetings to your viewers out there and thank them for patronizing the program.
Right. Thank you very much for the warm greetings there on behalf of the viewers. We also have on panel Mr. Ako Baldwin. He is of the NGO world. He's a rights activist and he would be commenting a lot on humanitarian issues on the program today. Thanks for coming, sir.
It's my pleasure, Mr. Yanick, to be here today, and to all our viewers, Happy New Year 2019.
Right. We also have on panel Mr. Kedia Robert. He is a political analyst, and he is well grounded when it comes to issues of political discussions and also on setting agenda on issues of politics. He's joining us here to talk about the political issues we shall be discussing here today. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yanick, and greetings to all my fellow panelists and to all the viewers of Hitv. As I always say at the beginning of any program, we are here to give our own analysis, to give our own view with a positive intention for the growth of our nation. So thanks for inviting me once more.
Indeed. And last but not the least, and most especially because he is the mascot of the program, we have Mr. Sama Abangmungwa, who is a social commentator, joining us here once again, like ever, to comment on some of the issues we shall be discussing here today. Thanks for coming, sir.
Thank you, Yanick. It's been an eventful year, news-making year indeed, and I am convinced that by the time we leave your studios, we would have a good opportunity to discuss the issues in retrospect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And well, together with all the panelists, we wish you season's greetings. Happy New Year. This is the very last edition of the program for the year. The next time we will be on your screen, it will certainly be in 2019. I mean, we'll talk on the program. Right. We also have all the panelists who are on the touchline. They shall be joining us here very shortly. We have Mr. Linwe Clovis, who will be joining us here, as well as others who are seated at the bank side of the panel. Okay. Right, we kickstart our program this day. We'll talk about the creation of the emergency humanitarian plan that the government created. The government of Cameroon on the 13th of June 2018 created the emergency humanitarian plan. This plan that was designated to cater for some of the human casualties, or rather some of the collateral damages that took place in the northwest and southwest region because of the Anglophone crisis, was Cameroon government's own way of looking at the humanitarian aspect of the crisis. Announcing the government's plan, the Prime Minister and Head of Government, Philemon Yang, said some 12.7 billion CFA francs will be needed to cater for some of the humanitarian losses in the northwest and southwest region. The Prime Minister also said some 36 ministries would be in charge of carrying out some of government actions in these regions. According to the Prime Minister and Head of Government, some food aids and materials to cater for displaced persons would be donated to the Anglophones from the northwest and southwest region, and it will run for some 6 months. Now, we're going to look at the humanitarian plan of the government that was expected to run for 18 months and not 6 months, for 18 months between 2018 2019. We're going to look at its creation, and 9 months after, it is 9 months today, the 6 months, I want to say 6 months today, the plan, that's the government's plan, was created. How effective has it been so far? And we're going to look at the projections, because a lot of developments have taken place on the 18th of December 2018. The chairperson of that commission, together with other people, were distributing gifts, say donations, from various parts of the country, including Boya, including the West region, the Northwest region, and so on. We're going to look at all of it, how much that has affected or changed positively the Anglophone plights. Gentlemen, we're talking about the government's, people want to call it goodwill intention, to create a humanitarian plan to cater for the Anglophone displaced persons. We want to call them internally displaced persons and refugees, because the initial discussion was to cater for all Anglophone refugees and displaced persons, though it has been limited to just internally displaced persons. First of all, let me begin with you, Mr. George Mufo. What is your assessment, first of all, of the government's move to create the emergency humanitarian plan to cater, with 12.7 billion to cater for the humanitarian needs of Anglophones? What did you assess that move? Was it a well-calculated move with good intentions, or it was just one of such blindfolded moves to make people forget your plight?
You seem to load your questions with innuendos and what they call you guys call it in your profession, orientating it to a direction that you want an answer towards that direction. Far from it. What I want to pass across first and foremost as information is that, as the title of the document says emergency humanitarian plan. It is not a Cameroonian creation per se. This is the format of a document that comes out wherever there is human suffering, especially out of a crisis. And if you look at human history, we have been having numerous crises, but suffice to say, today this particular approach in palliating human suffering actually saw its significance after the Second World War with the creation of the United Nations. So you are going to find institutions like UNICEF, UNESCO coming up with documents like this to intervene, because during wartime the belligerent, especially those who are actually carrying arms, they might have what it takes to defend themselves and even seize from those who don't have. But now the general population, especially the vulnerable, that is the children and women, most times they are those called collateral damages, which means that they have their basic needs taken off from them. Here I'm referring to destruction of their habitations, destruction of the health facilities, and here we are expanding it right up to water sources. We are talking here of educational institutions from primary to tertiary level. And so the announcement of an emergency humanitarian plan was just a necessity that came in time, at its own time, because you know, change management begins with people, first of all, rejecting that they don't need a change. And without going to the genesis of what we today call in this country, that some official pronouncement would not call the Anglophone crisis, they will call it the crisis or socio-political crisis in the Southwest and Northwest. Give it whatever name, the outcome is that Cameroonians living in the Northwest and the Southwest, they are actually a mass population that is actually suffering, having been deprived of their basic livelihoods. They cannot do anything economically for themselves, talk less of securing themselves when it comes to safety. And then so in the absence of those basic human needs, it becomes necessary for a higher quota. But I want to say here that this one is called a Cameroon government emergency or humanitarian emergency plan because it has to have a political initiation, and if a state does not accept officially, no other institution, be it the United Nations, because United Nations can only come to this country if authorized by the Minister of External Relations and the other bodies. So, and other agencies, you can talk about UNICEF and the other institutions. So when the government gave that kickoff, this 12 billion that they are talking about, 12 billion plus, it's not going to be money that the government has kept somewhere. It's going to be mobilized. What I'm trying to say here is that it is a process of, first of all, assessing the needs. When you assess the needs, here we're talking about identifying, knowing the quantity and all of that. Then you budget now for how you are going to address those needs. That is the second phase. Then the third step is now mobilizing the resources. Then the fourth step is implementation. And the last step is now monitoring and evaluating the efficiency. So as of now, we might not necessarily talk about evaluating, because you see it comes at times when they become so many intervention, people who are entering that you don't know which one is doing what. You don't know whether you're going to be evaluating the total emergency plan, or you're going to be evaluating what the other civil society organizations they are doing. But I want to say, and I take this opportunity, that there are people outside there who are suffering. And we have to actually use programs like this to let those who are responsible or those who are given the authority to participate in this humanitarian intervention, that they should take it like an evangelization, whereby they should not look at what they are going to make out as individuals, but how they are going to alleviate those sufferings.
Right. Thank you very much. From your analysis, one can deduce that the government is already it's already subjected to fail, because you talked of carrying out first of all carrying out need assessments, later on you
based
do
on the needs.
yes,
Then the third phase is you mobilize the
mobilize the
resources.
resources, yes.
Then before you go now to the operation, the intervention per se.
Mm-hmm.
And then while the intervention is going on, you are now doing monitoring and evaluation to see whether the people situations that you identified at their need assessment stage is being ameliorated.
All right.
So and this is a template. It's not a Cameroonian creation.
Well,
Every emergency.
unfortunately,
humanitarian
everything has been juggled to one, and it seems to be going on like that. Now, let me bring you Mr. Akko Baldwin. The government, from the explanation, seems to have a very lofty and very compassionate love for the people of the Northwest and Southwest region. And unfortunately, the statistics they produced based on the needs assessment they carried out seems to be geometrically progressing and improving, with more casualties being registered on daily basis. How does the government reconcile its solving a humanitarian crisis based on its the logistics and all what it had budgeted, with the progressive humanitarian downturn that we have in the two regions?
Mr. Yanick, it's my pleasure to be here today. It's the right of every government to cater for its people. And it's also the right of every government to look for a solution to basic problems. Before the crisis started, a lot of civil society organizations have been calling for the need for the government to look at the basic needs, the cries of the people. And this, a lot of the voices went on air, social media and so on. And now it has come to this extent that governments, or our government has, turned into being like a beggar. Emergency humanitarian plan is now a kind of a slogan for begging. I think Cameroon is not a nation to turn its people into beggars. We need to look for a means as Cameroonians, as government officials, to address the fundamental needs of the people. How can you carry out a successful humanitarian plan without bringing about ceasefire? Without ceasefire, it's not possible. A lot of areas are under high military presence. A lot of people are suffering. As civil society actors, it becomes extremely difficult. Even at the level of Boya, there are areas whereby it's extremely difficult to have access because of fighting, shootings here and there, both by the state actors and the non-state actors. So I think in order for there to be a successful emergency humanitarian plan, as the government is having it, there must be ceasefire. We are calling for ceasefire as civil society organizations. We are calling for ceasefire, and we think the government has the means to bring this crisis to an end and stop making Cameroonians look like beggars at the level of the international community. We are not beggars. Cameroonians are resourceful people. We have a lot of youths who are talented, who are capable of doing something for their communities, but they don't have a means. You can't bring forth your talent in the midst of a crisis, most especially an armed conflict that is ongoing across the Northwest and Southwest regions. So we think in order for the government emergency humanitarian plan to be a success, there is need for access, as Mr. George stated. There is need for access. There is need for needs assessment. The needs assessment on the ground is very poor. The statistics don't add up. A lot of people are suffering. Houses are being burnt day in, day out. People are being killed day in, day out. How can there be proper needs assessment under the current climate? It's very difficult. So I think from a civil society perspective, I'm calling on the government to call for ceasefire in order for us to bring this to an end. And Mr. Yanick, the environment is always very tense for civil society organizations to go on the field. At the level of the United Nations humanitarian plan, it gives the opportunity for civil society organizations to work with all stakeholders on the field, but it has been extremely difficult for us to have access, which is a major issue as far as the humanitarian emergency is concerned across both regions. Thank you.
Right now, I'd like us to get a clear picture on the government distribution plan, because one of the actions that government has been very pronounced in the field has been the distribution of basic needs like food, like mattresses and all the like. We want to go to the very latest images from an event carried out with respect to the government's humanitarian action. It was organized in the Boya Council, where the mayor of Boya, Ike Patrick, was distributing some of these aid to what we call the internally displaced persons. Let us take a watch to this report. Right, we shall certainly be coming to that report, why it is being put into place. But I wanted us first to watch that report so that it gives us a new directive in our discussion. But let us ride on. Let me bring you in. Okay, the report is ready. Let's take a watch. Let's look at what happens generally during the distribution process. We shall be back to talk more after this report.
The trucks that accompanied the governor from Bamenda carried mattresses, bags of rice, cooking oil, blankets, sugar, tomatoes, and even physical cash to commune with the internally displaced persons of the Santa subdivision. Gathered at the DO's office were natives from the more than 10 villages that make up the subdivision. Of the 120 registered internally displaced persons, only 80 benefited today, while others would do subsequently from the DO's office. The key message to them by the governor of the Northwest region was that they should collaborate with government and security forces to restore peace in the subdivision. Governor Adolphe Lele Lafrique informed them of the creation of a disarmament commission by President Paul Biya to rehabilitate the fighters who are in the bushes if they drop their arms.
I would like to say here officially that we all listened to the head of state addressing the nation for his inauguration, in the course of his inauguration speech to the nation. And he promised, swearing in, that we will make sure our nation remain one and indivisible. He decided also to make sure the security services take necessary measures to ensure the security of the nation.
Civil protection officials from the Ministry of Territorial Administration added their voices to that of the governor in calling for the fighters to drop arms and benefit from their services.
Is that those in the villages, those who don't hurt themselves, so that when those who are laden see what is done for them, they have the courage to come out of the bushes and present themselves and register to have the eggs.
Some internally displaced persons, however, remained disgruntled on the process of distribution.
I know the height. Me, I come up for Southwest, my village in Abaliga. So since as all the crises they were meet up with, don't bombard all within them, or don't show the manager reach the village. We just stand the call, we say government want for help with the way this crisis don't know attack them. But we don't don't bring the cargo the way with the raise stamp. They ask ID, we say we not get and we because all things they born we for house. So as the same we sign, one for council, they say if ID not there, we not sign. That means they don't bring the thing of approval we. Better they will leave and they never even call we safe. They never call we. Because when we receive the thing, they so well come and jam, but they can't jam for people, the way water attack them, they know they jam. It don't make no sense. That means they come of approval we will come over Santa area. Will not be fine, will not be happy at all.
Been told to regularize their situation at the DO's office and collect the items. From Santa subdivision, The team will move to Mbengwe in the Momo division.
Following the ongoing gesture of the head of state through the Minister of Territorial Administration to provide aid to those who have been affected by the Anglophone crisis, some 500 internally displaced persons from the Boya municipality have recently benefited from this gesture. The mayor of the Boya Council, Ekema Patrick Esunge, under the instruction of the Minister of Territorial Administration there represented in the selection and distribution, considered a place of price to those who are more vulnerable and can barely support themselves.
Our selection procedure was appreciated by all and sundry, even those who did not benefit. We were very stern on the instructions we gave to the committee, which was put in place to ensure that if a civil servant is internally displaced, he or she should not be a beneficiary to the scheme. The essence is that we should give a pride of place to persons who are actually desperate, because a civil servant is displaced, but the salary goes through the civil servant's account, and so you can support and sustain yourself in your new environment. But it becomes very difficult for somebody who has moved, either a farmer who has moved and the farm is abandoned, either a petty trader who has moved and has stopped the economic activity. It becomes very difficult even to look for a place to cash. And so the purpose was for us to cater for this category of persons, especially the physically challenged, internally displaced persons. If you look at the list of 150 we have today, out of the 150, we have 15 physically challenged of our population who have been given special consideration to benefit from this. And the same instructions like we did during the first phase of distribution.
He also appreciated the head of state and employed him to do more.
We pray that the head of state, in his usual magnanimity, should continue to support this category of persons until such a time that we shall come out of the crisis.
The recipients, though going through some difficult moments, appreciated the head of state kind gesture.
I'm really happy for this thing the way our Papa, President Pobiado, and for we. I thank you, say, at least a member we, and I thank the mayor to Boya municipality, say, I'll be choosing among the people the way they call them can take these gifts.
We pray that the President of the Republic should continue with this gesture so that those who have not benefited will also be a partaker of it.
A sum of 2,250,000 francs was given to be distributed to each family, with each receiving 15,000 francs for transportation.
Okay. Televiewers, of course, the camera caught us there, but you have certainly got a clear picture on the distribution process of government's humanitarian plan. We shall cue from there while we have the images rolling. Mr. KJ Robert, we want to talk about this gesture. Should we pretend that the government is eventually doing what it had planned? Is the goods and services reaching the right target? I mean, are they the right people receiving these? I mean, you want to call mattresses, tins of sardines, bags of cement with a few planks. I mean, is it reaching the right target?
You see, the plan, first of all, is a very good initiative, and the Cameroonian government has always have good initiative, but we always have a problem when it comes to implementation and carry them through. Because we also saw this at the level of the Boko Haram in the north, where Cameroonians all over the national territory contributed. And with this one, what they did is a very good initiative. But my problem now comes with the level of distributing this aid to the people that really need it. We all in Cameroon, we know that the Northwest and the Southwest region comprises of 13 divisions. And we know that the least of them that are most touched by this crisis is Fako division and the Mezam division. And you discover that most of these aid were even taken to these two divisions that were least concerned or is been least hit. When you look at places like Lebialem, you look at places like Manfi, where we know all this happened. They have not gone there. They instead came to places that are least affected. So that's where a problem comes from my own perspective or point of view. They were supposed to take this to those divisions really that are touched. Now, secondly, I'll talk also about the people being appointed to do this. You don't appoint someone that does not believe that there is a crisis to go and share aid for people that are suffering from that crisis. For me, it's a joke at the level of the government, because someone will not come and say, I said it yesterday, I am saying it today, and I will still say it tomorrow, that there is no Anglophone crisis. And you still give that person this aid to go and share to people that are suffering from this crisis, that his own ideology, he believes there is no crisis. And you expect if he will deliver, then I will say no.
He said there is no Anglophone problem. There's a difference between an Anglophone problem and an Anglophone crisis. So let's be very clear about that. So he said there is no Anglophone problem, but then there is an Anglophone crisis. So we should be careful about that.
Well, but even then, leave all of those controversial terminology and attaching. What is actually happening there is a geographical space that has challenges. And this geographical space is in the northwest and the southwest. Because again, when we do limiting it to probably because phone is from linguistic perspective, there are also people, because of the fact that they find themselves in these two regions, who don't speak English, but are also internally displaced or they're also affected. So it is a humanitarian situation where every person, whether speaking English or French, or the moment, because it's a humanitarian endeavor, which means every human being who is found in the crossfire of these two fighting entities, they are bound to be protected by the government. And also in the case where they have been disempowered through the burning of their house, or they cannot go to their farms, the government is supposed to protect them and give them some livelihood while waiting when things will come down to normal.
Right. Yes, Mr. KJ, you were saying something.
Yes, I'm saying something. Now, you will say he said there is no Anglophone problem, but there is Anglophone crisis. The problem he disowned, the effects now show is demonstrated with the crisis we have. So we will not contradict ourselves with terminologies. But I'll end up to say someone that the people in the field don't consider him as an elite because of what he said. It is not something that I will come to a media and lie. I'm saying the truth. People don't believe in him. Then when you send that same person to go to the field, he may say there is no Anglophone problem. He may say there is no Anglophone crisis. He may be correct with his view being different from those in the field. But the people don't accept with him. How then do you send such person to go to that same people that he has contradictory view with them to share goods and assist them in such crisis? So I end up to say the plan is good, but the persons that are there to implement it have a question mark, and the way they go about it, it just shows on seriousness on the part of the person, because he does not believe in the crisis. Because what is it? There is a problem. We have 13 divisions that are really affected. Then you go to those that are least affected, Fako and Mezam, and you do some parade with mattresses, and you come back when we have women who are pregnant in the bushes that they need these mattress the most. We have children of 2 months in the bushes that really need all this aid, and you come to Fako, you abandon them in Mafe, where we know that's where the crisis is really hot. It's so sad. It's sad for me.
The government has always said that there are IDPs everywhere in the country. They even go as far as giving this humanitarian aid to supposed IDPs in Yaoundé, in Littoral, in Douala, in Jombe, even in Bafoussam and other parts. So even in Bangoring recently, remember that the Minister of Territorial Administration went to Bangoring and donated these things under the humanitarian plan. So
Mr.
all of this are
Yanick, you are
put into place.
100% correct. But what I'm saying is,
please, let me
those
leave you
places
there.
that are right,
Let me just
hold
on. I'll get to you, but let me bring in Mr. Sama into this. Mr. Sama, 6 months after government instituted the emergency humanitarian plan, it only took the government a month later to begin distribution, and Peka 14, so what you call My 14 in Douala, was the first recipient with over 100 supposed Anglophones, internally displaced persons, receiving this this gesture. 6 months down the lane, what form of assessment can we give it? Has it been so far effective, or has it been a roller coaster ride for the government?
Right. Yanick, I would want to start by appreciating the intervention of Mr. Mufo George, with whom I shared the same amphitheater some 18 years ago in the university, and whom I admire so much for his sound intellectual contributions. I've followed him on several platforms. He's an expert in developmental and humanitarian issues. Mr. Mufo, I'm quite happy to be on the same platform with you. I'm elated. But permit me start by rebutting one of the points you raised. We conceive, we analyze a project, and then at the tail end you say we come into evaluation. But that does not cancel the fact that we have midterm evaluations. We have intermittent evaluations, step-by-step evaluation to see how far we've gone. And so we don't need to wait right up to the end of the project when we don't know when it will end before we evaluate ourselves. I would also want to differ with Kedia. An IDP anywhere is an IDP who is concerned with this matter. And bear you in mind that Fako Oban, that's from mile 18, not even Munya, from Fako Oban cutting across to Tiko to Limbe, are the only safe havens for now, where people from all over the region have been able to. Zones. That is why if you look at the population density and even school attendance enrollment in the schools around this area, it is quite overbearing. Which means that wherever the government can find an IDP, it is acceptable and it is encouraged to attend to their needs. An IDP in Manfe is not more desperate than an IDP in Malingo Street. They have virtually the same needs. And again, you may look at the government's choice of attending to those in the urban areas you call Fako and Mezam as a matter of security first for those who go to distribute those items, and accessibility, where it is virtually impossible for the government to go to Lebialeb division. You will not expect them to go. So attend to those who are more accessible, and then progressively hoping that the situation improves, security situation improves. That said, I think that the creation and the implementation so far of this project further exposes the annals of this government. It's a government that knows no shame, and it's a government, one thing I have known about this government is it's a government that is never proactive. This is a project, a plan that was conceived in June. June is mid-budgetary year. And every government has an emergency budget. By June, we conceive of a humanitarian and emergency plan for IDPs. And by that June, we don't have money to put the plan on its rails. As I think Baldwin said, government didn't have any funds on its own, and so it had to immediately go on its knees begging. By the time politicians and economic operators and persons of goodwill contributed the first, I think, 1.2 billion francs, as we were told, for a project that had been earmarked for 12.7 billion, the taps went dry, and the government has not been able to raise any other sum again, unless it has done so without us knowing. That explains why the efforts so far have only trickled. Unfortunately, it makes us a laughing stock again, given the quality of humanitarian emergency aid that are being distributed. I don't know I found it so embarrassing that at the esplanade of the Boya Council, beneficiaries were given 5 bags of cement, 2 sheets of zinc, and a handful of planks. It was difficult for me to rationalize the philosophy behind such items. In an emergency situation, we look at the basic needs of the people, the most essential basic needs. We know housing, shelter is a basic need. But in a situation like this, like the one we are living through, where the war is still ongoing, I expected us to look at food, enough food. I expected us to look at mosquito nets for those who are in the bushes and those in who are living in open air. I expect us to even look at medication. I haven't seen any element of medical assistance anywhere as part of that project. We go and then buy a few bags of rice and a few tins of sardine, and embarrassingly, 5 bags of cement for somebody who has lost a whole compound, a whole estate, and you give 5 bags of cement. I think it's embarrassing, and it is further embarrassing because of the mechanism behind this project. Unfortunately, we are ruled by a syndicate of mafia people who politicize everything. I haven't seen the government invite and incorporate civil society activists. I haven't seen the government invite and incorporate church authorities. Because the government thinks that it is a government issue, they must handle it the CPDM way. And that is why it fails. I would want to differ again with Kedia, who thinks that the people who are sent to distribute the items do not have lovable faces. No. My worry is a hungry, desperate man in the name of an IDP wouldn't bother to look at the face of him who can give him food. His main priority is subsistence, staying alive. And so whether you send an Atangaji to go give the gift, or you send an Aya Foundation member to go give the gift, what we want is give them the gift that they need, the gift that will satisfy their basic needs, as I heard Mr. Mufo say. Unfortunately, this project is fast failing, just like most other projects conceived by this government. Not because the templates are not good, but because the Cameroonian adaptation of the templates is always what is faulty. We take a good template and then adapt it very poorly because of our Cameroonianness. It's unfortunate.
Yes. Now, we come back to, he's talked about the quality of humanitarian aids, assistance that are given, and the quantity. Well, the quantity cannot matter at the moment, but the quality is a problem, given the fact that we're having sheets of zinc, we're having bags of cement that literally cannot even build the head of anything worthy. Mr. Mufo, if we look at the quality of what is being given to the people, does it meet the needs of the people? And eventually, would it be calculated or evaluated at the end that government successfully met the humanitarian needs of the population?
Again, thank you. I think we come back to situate ourselves within the context of our theme. And I want also that at the end of the day, I always say participating in a mass communication medium like this, it's also at the end of the day, you would have helped some people outside there to move from some level to another level. And now let us be very, very clear so that there is always a challenge at one time when you want to assess or evaluate based on what was not even the original success criteria in terms of objectives. Now, here you've rightly put on your title Government Emergency Humanitarian Plan. Now, if we want to extrapolate and say the government can be translated to the state of Cameroon, which for some political reasons might not be the same, because the government takes the initiative. But you know, even while we can be able to see, because like one of us has said here, when they are doing that, they get the journalists to come out with their cameras and give it the blast of whatever thing. I heard my young friend said when he was going to do one of those coverage, a minister called him to add salt and pepper into it, so that the world should know that the government is doing so much. But far from it, Yanick, I want to say there are certain things that we also, as a responsible citizen, while criticizing what is not done, it behoves on us also to also propose what we think that was an addition to what is already going on. And the first thing is that the other actors, which we have rightly said here, which they are not very visible based on the fact that probably they don't have the issue of getting cheap publicity by getting the taxpayers' television house to move around so that we are looking for political positioning and all of that. And you've even mentioned one of those foundations that even started even before the government's own agents came into the play, which is the IR Foundation. And if you move around, every major religious denomination has collected funds for this humanitarian endeavor, and they are actually doing it either within their Christians or they are extending it to their neighborhood. So in that particular case, what is happening here is that there is an absolute need, and I want to assure Sama that what was said without being pedagogic here is that there is a template that follows the process of how humanitarian projects should be run. And like you already said, each phase of the project is supposed to be evaluated. In fact, they are supposed to evaluate from even the needs assessment, whether they were well assessed. They evaluate the planning, whether it was well planned in terms of whatever, and then they evaluate the financial mobilization. And again, it is not, I heard one of us talk about the government was supposed to have had an emergency fund or budget to wait for crisis to intervene. The issue there is that a budget is a budget. And when you are budgeting, you also anticipate revenue generation. And so when your cash flow does not permit you to generate sufficient revenue that will give you the opportunity to have sufficient cash at the time that is needed, it becomes a problem. Now going back straight to your problem, the question that I asked, whether the quality of what is actually being given now. The issue, I think someone even answered the question in his intervention. The first thing is that these people, they have a problem of hunger because their livelihood source is affected. Their economic activities have been hampered. So the first thing is hunger. And again, whether you give somebody a tin of sardine that he doesn't eat, that person has that as an economic value that he can exchange with somebody. You know, in the days of trade by barter, where you give goods what you don't like to the person who has a goods that you like, and that's how it goes. What we should be pressing and trying to push across here is that these humanitarian goods, wherever they are, they should. We are talking about the government position of decentralization. What stopped the government from creating a warehouse in the southwest regional capital and that warehouse in the northwest regional capital, where you are buying those local goods that you know that is what anthropologically your people are used to consuming, and from there it becomes a clearinghouse where, and I'm happy with what one of us said here. In as much as people are desperate, there are some people who will prefer for pride to die rather than taking something from a hand of a particular person based on the fact that the person might have insulted them before and all of that. But at this point in time, let us look at the intention and not the person. And don't forget also that here we are talking about position, not the person. Because by duty of the function of that position, whether it's the devil that you put there, he has an obligation to execute that function of that position. And so at this point in time, let us know that it is not a favor for each person but the person is executing a function. And if you go to the Ministry of Territorial Administration, there's a whole big directorate of civil protection. And that civil protection, whether you put whoever there, whether it's somebody that you don't agree with politically or whatever, based on the fact that the taxpayers' money has been given to that position to use it for endeavors like this, it is the right of the citizen who is depressed or under need of government assistance to accept those things that is given out by the government agent.
Right. Now, let's deviate a little bit and look at the bigger picture. Since October this year, the United Nations Humanitarian Agency have made new inroads in the southwest region in particular, and they have been carrying out a lot of humanitarian actions in different divisions, different communities in the southwest and northwest, in the southwest region in particular. We know of the World Food Program that is here. We know of the United Nations High Commission for Refugees. We also know of the UN Humanitarian Agency, the OCHA, and all the like. Mr. Baldwin, would you say the UN is actually meeting the humanitarian needs? Because from recent evaluation, the UN agencies are even making more inroads into some of those formerly known as danger zones, red zones, to deliver food aid to needy persons than the government would do. So would you say the UN is actually meeting the needs of the people?
Mr. Yanick, that's a good question. Before I proceed, I wish to clarify a couple of points.
Right.
Firstly, the point made by Mr. Sama on the need for collaboration between civil society organizations and the government. And we should be clear, this is an armed conflict. It's not an earthquake that is happening at the level of the northwest and southwest regions. It's an armed conflict. And unless there is ceasefire, it is extremely difficult for civil society organizations to collaborate with the government. And as a civil society actor and a humanitarian actor, most civil society organizations must practice the principle of neutrality, because this is an armed conflict caused by socio-political issues. So the principle of neutrality is extremely important in order to guarantee the safety of a lot of humanitarian actors on the field. And I also wish to clarify the point made by Mr. George on if the issue of trade by barter. I don't think this is a trade by barter issue. The government must carry out proper needs assessment before giving out things to the public. Without needs assessment, it will be extremely difficult. It will be rather a waste of resources as far as the government emergency humanitarian plan is concerned. So there is need for proper needs assessment by the government in order for them to have the data before going on the field. This is not an issue of trade by barter. It's a very serious issue, an issue that is in need of a lot of funding, as you rightly stated at the beginning of the program, 12.7 billion. And a lot of monies has been, the government has begged for so much monies from local businesses. That is monies that those businesses can reinvest and create jobs for youths. A lot of Cameroonian youths who are unemployed. But now we are talking about a humanitarian crisis across the northwest and southwest regions, which is a strain on most of those businesses to create jobs. So I think those are the 2 points that I wanted to highlight. Mm-hmm. Moving forward to the United Nations emergency humanitarian plan, there is at the moment the UN humanitarian response plan for 2019. And the UN has done a lot when it comes to needs assessment. They have worked with outsource a lot to IOM to carry out needs assessment on the field. A lot of humanitarian actors have been sent on the field, Meme, most especially Manu, and so on.
In fact, all the 13 divisions.
Yes. So I think the data that is going to come in from the various needs assessment carried out by the UN agencies is going to be very credible for a proper humanitarian intervention in 2019. After Mass on Sunday at at the Catholic Church, I discussed with one lady. She's about 65. I told her about this is what the UN is looking forward to in 2019. She was very frustrated that the UN has not done anything to help the people who are going through a lot. There is a lot of frustration going out, you know, by a lot of communities. But I think with respect to 2019, what they have so far, it looks promising. So we should just keep our fingers crossed while doing our work as humanitarian actors and activists.
Yeah, Mr. Samuel.
Yes, let me just close down on that issue. And I think that as far as the government of Cameroon is concerned, the humanitarian emergency plan is a plan that would eventually fail, or that is failing, and would eventually fail, because we are dealing with a government that is notorious for such failed projects. Let me actually go back to the first step in emergency assistance, which Mr. Mufo identified, needs assessment. I really wonder if, judging by the quality of items that are being distributed, whether the government went into need assessment to find out whether it had the means, whether it even crossed their mind that we should go to the field and find out what these people really need. I doubt if they did. And that's why you can judge that from the quality of items that are given. The quality and the quantity, I still insist on that. Now, we are dealing again with a government that is not only notorious for such white elephant projects, but a government that is like a fitness expert tells you that for you to keep fit and maintain a good shape, desist from this, check what you eat, check what you consume, and engage in sports, physical exercise. You engage in physical exercise, but you come back and you still keep consuming the same stuff that rendered you out of shape. We are talking about emergency plan, but from June till now, we have witnessed at the upper side the highest level of destruction of communities, which have rendered people more needy, more homeless, more sick. So we are talking about a regime that was seemingly forced into adopting this plan to maybe please the international community and give them the semblance of we are struggling to find solutions to it. But while behind the back, we keep doing the things that actually brought us to that level. It's unfortunate, and I think this government is cash-strapped. We don't have money. It is not a secret anymore that we don't have money. And I wonder whether we are counting on the goodwill of economic operators, or we are counting on the goodwill of the international community, which does not trust us any longer, and the bad faith of our people on the ground. Again, as I said, this is a project that is failing, and it is a project that would eventually fail.
Now, just to cue in from where Mr. Sama ended, let's talk about the coordinating humanitarian actions in the Northwest and Southwest region, and maybe in the far North region. The government of the Republic instituted a coordination committee for all humanitarian actions in the problem or troubled or crisis hit regions. Did you see that decision as a decision marked with good faith, or it was intended to slow the process of other humanitarian groups who are trying to meet the needs of the people down in the crisis hit part of the Northwest and Southwest region?
As I always tell you, Mr. Yanick, the government have good policies, they always have good intention, but we always see problems when it comes to implementation. As I was saying here, as I just said here the first time I was talking, and Mr. Sama saying that the government cannot go to those heated areas of the Northwest and Southwest region. I ask myself question, if the other arms of the United Nations are going there, if Aya Abina Foundation can go to those areas and give aid, and the government cannot go into it in the name of those areas are heated, I ask myself questions. Now, when I say there are some particular people, we have heard refugees in Nigeria saying that they don't want aid from some particular people they call names. So it's not something that we should be turning things against those people that are suffering in the bush, because tomorrow I will move in the street and they will see me. What I am saying here is, I'm not here to condemn, but I'm here to give solution on the way forward. If the government has seen that these people, their presence here does not stimulate the people to feel excited to take food, the government should work with some organizations. If they don't want to work with civil organizations, they should use pastors and priests that have churches in almost all villages, and they are there present to work so that this thing can circulate and go. Priests are working, pastors are working, that the government can work with them to give out this thing. We should not rely saying that the government, I am still saying it, for the government to come and to stay in Fako and in Mezam is a failure. We should not say majority of them, because if those organizations can go into those areas, foreign organization in the first place, go into those areas, we see the Aya Foundation go into those areas, and the minister in charge of all those cannot go. I will consider it to say they are heated area. I ask myself questions. So what I'm pleading with the government, what I'm advising with those in charge, they can't work alone. They cannot work alone for sure. They should ask aid. If civil society are being political or being neutral per se because it's a armed conflict, they should work with priests, with pastors that we've seen them call for conferences to solve the problem because they have goodwill. They should work with them so that all these will go. Giving mantras to someone that is in Douala, giving a mantras to someone that is in Peka Katos or in Boya, and leaving someone that is in the forest, it calls for alarm for me. We will say they are all the same, they are all, but I would disagree that they are not the same. The others are in Boya, the others are in Douala, they are living in houses, and those guys are there in the bushes, they are living in forests. Snakes are their friends. They don't even have paths, they are using grasses, and they come, they share things around those that are in the comfort zone, and they allow those in the bushes. Is wrong for me. This government should collaborate. This government should work with the pastors, the priests that are in the field to ensure that this aid will circulate and go to all of them.
Yeah, yes, I wish to add something on what Mr. Kedia is saying. Mr. Kedia, this crisis started at the level of the rural areas, but it's worth noting that it has generated into an urban crisis. There are a lot of IDPs at the level of the West region and littoral. And as Mr. Sama said, an IDP, no matter the location, you know, they have equal needs. Even though the needs of those in the bushes might be more than those at the level of the urban areas, but all of them are suffering. That's why at the beginning of the program, I emphasized the issue of a ceasefire. Without a ceasefire, it will be very difficult for humanitarian actors to reach out to those at the level of the bushes, at the level of the rural areas, and also, you know, a lot of communities that are now going through a lot of shooting, you know, day in, day out. So there is need for ceasefire in order for us to have a proper humanitarian access.
Right. Okay, we would leave it at that. Eventually we shall be coming to that, especially as the head of state will be, perhaps will be talking about the conflict in the Northwest and Southwest region on the 31st. He may touch the humanitarian aspect, and we promise that we shall be talking about that. We are anticipating that the president will talk about the humanitarian crisis rocking the Northwest and Southwest region. But we leave it at that. Let's turn the leaf and go to some other thing. On the 2nd of July 2018, denizens of the Northwest and Southwest region woke up to realize that there were no bikes, no vehicles, no shops, or even people plying the streets. It was a dead town. Well, though it was not new in these regions, but it came as an unprecedented move because many felt ghost towns was already something of the past. But with the propensity with which the ghost town reinvented or resurfaced itself, got many wondering. Ghost town for over 5 months now have been very effective in the northwest and southwest region. Needless to tell you the economic downturn that have been caused by the ghost towns. But then it has become a new normal in the northwest and southwest regions that on Mondays everyone down their tools and spend more time with their families as opposed in the past. Now we want to talk about ghost towns because we are still living the situation which is very uncomfortable to everyone. I mean, to most people. But then it seems to be a propelling agenda of one of the warring factions of the Anglophone crisis. Let us go back to our machines and bring back the sounds and colors on the day ghost town resurfaced itself in the northwest and southwest region. We captured Boya and showed how people trekked for long distances because there were no vehicles and people could not do anything. And it's been that situation for over 5 months now. Let's get this report. We shall be back.
Capital this Monday morning looked pretty much like a town responding to a general call for a sports walk in assorted attires with denizens in all shapes, sizes and colors trekking the full stretch of the town to attend to different responsibilities. From support to Bonduma down to Moliko, through both sides of the Malingos, there was no single sight of the usual yellow township taxis, as many could be seen parked in different locations. The busy Moliko commercial hub translated into a shadow of itself with commercial shops and institutions all closed down as if Sunday moved into Monday with denizens called to worship in different churches. Not even the ever-bustling Mile 17 motor park showed sign of life, with all agencies, hawkers and petty traders shying away from their Monday business routine. The empty streets, closed shops amongst other dead activities this Monday left many worried, asking questions as to how long they will have to put up with this situation, also wondering aloud on who is holding back the key to the so much talked about dialogue on the ongoing Anglophone crisis.
All right, so you get it, and that's been the situation of the northwest and southwest region like ever since the 2nd of July 2018. We wake up on Mondays just to say more prayers, maybe eat some food and spend more time with the family. No work, everything is grounded. Let me bring the panelists in. Mr. Sama, what is the motive? I mean, if we want to give the rationale behind ghost towns and how it is helping the struggle, in quote, the struggle. What's the rationale of ghost towns?
Let me take you back to the 90s, 1991, 92, when the SDF and its allied political parties instituted the Operation Villemot. And what was the philosophy behind that concept? It was aimed at paralyzing the economy, making it difficult for the government to run. So it was some sort of a government shutdown, so that you make the society ungovernable economically, and with that way you will bring your adversary to his knees for negotiations. Within the context of the ongoing Anglophone crisis, ghost towns were introduced, if I'm not mistaken, as far back as January 7, 2017, when the consortium leaders wanted to send a message. I remember one of them who granted a press interview said, "We shall let Yaoundé know that we govern our territory." And so the philosophy behind it is to send a message to your adversary that here I speak and I have command. Yes. And ever since it was introduced, it has been very effective in some parts of the Northwest and the Southwest. But the spirit and the fever of ghost towns died down at a certain point in time in some other parts, particularly Boya, given the very strong and spirited fight that was waged by the Lord Mayor of the municipality against it. So for a good number of months, inhabitants of Boya and other parts of Fako did not really adhere to it, or were no longer respecting the ghost town ultimatum as it was in some other parts, like in Bamenda. Monday, July 2nd, marked a turning point. And as you said, it was the rebirth of the real ghost town phenomenon, where unfortunately, it coincided with the period of the marking of the GCE exams. I had colleagues, I am a teacher, I had colleagues who trekked from mile 16, from mile 14 to Bokwango and back. And ever since, Boya has not been the same. I do not know how successful it is, but its success can only be evaluated and assessed by those who initiated and are enforcing it. But I want to think that as a resident of this town, as an inhabitant of this town, I have suffered the pricks and the pains of ghost town. We have seen the administration, both civil administrators and municipal administrators, combat the ghost town phenomenon in their own ways. I don't know if I'll have time to come back to it, but I would want to remove my hat. May I do it? In honor of the step that has been taken now by the Lord Mayor of Boya, who at the beginning of this exercise thought the only weapon he had was a hammer to hit a nail. And to him, the only weapon to fight against ghost town was the weapon of the stick or the rod. I was very, very happy and humbled when I followed news reports how he was able to summon economic operators in Boya. He summoned car owners, transporters, and motor taxi riders and commercial operators to his council chambers to look for a way forward and what could be done to overcome it. My worry was I looked at the same mayor who 3-4 months back went around shutting down shops abusively, illegally, attacking taxis and allegedly destroying those that were parked on ghost town days and passing ultimatum to people who would not open their stores on ghost town days. I think the mayor has realized that there are two instruments in governance, the stick and the carrot. And I'm sure it has now dawned on him that those enforcing ghost towns are not those who suffer of its effects, the ordinary citizens and the traders and the businessmen, who are just victims, casualties in the ghost town fever. And so he has been able to invite them back to say, okay, what can we do? What is the way? What is the way forward? I wouldn't speak for those who instituted ghost towns. I wouldn't also speak for the administrators, but I speak for the common man like myself, that we have had it right up to our throats, and it is up to them. If there is a way of alleviating our misery and suffering, may they do it.
Okay, we're not concluding yet on that topic. We come back to it to be concluding the man.
All right.
Let me get to Mr. Mufo. Should we pretend that there was a motive behind this whole ghost town syndrome and all of that? It is 5 months, effectively 5 months after. Can we do any assessment to say that the motive is working? Is somebody winning fatly or bigly as these terminologies have always come? Is somebody really winning out of it? I mean, is it really working, the ghost town motive?
Well, I'm not sure the intention is for somebody to win. The intention is just like you're asking a terrorist that you are going to kill yourself to win. Because what is actually happening now is what they call the power of communication. You know, what the ghost town is the weapon that the person without an arm is using to communicate. To say we are not, to say, okay, if you say we don't have a problem, I will lock myself in the house. Just take back your... yes. So, and this is, historically, this is, it's not just a Cameroonian invention. From the days of civil disobedience to, some people call it strike, some people call it civil disobedience and protest, all of those things. And you see again, that's when Cameroon becomes unique, because you find a country where we reinvent a lot of things based on our different background. You find people who have studied in a variety of universities, of different traditions. When they come now to, I was going through a dictionary of Cameroonian local meanings in terms of how scholars, political scientists have been able to coin their own alphabet of political jargons used in Cameroon. That is uniquely Cameroon. And so the motive of every, what they call the weapon of the mass, is not to win the allies, because the allies, they have the legal force to crush you. But then somebody will refuse to say, okay, I am not going to pay tax. But you discover that they are not paying taxes to where they are supposed to pay rightly, but somehow, some people who are enforcing it, they are asking for contributions to also beef up. I mean, people are not paying taxes to the government, but they still pay, they go to church on Sunday, they still give offerings. They still pay their church contributions. They still. What I have not come to understand up to now in terms of what is actually happening in Cameroon is the fact that we were taking these things for granted and saying that it was a few, what they call them, syndicates or trade unions, what I call them, teachers or lawyers. But it is now clear that it's a grassroots, besides the fact that there is an element of fear. And this fear generally is also coming but more from the people who have the wherewithal. Because you look at most of the people who are complaining, they are the people whose privileges have been reduced. But somebody who had nothing, and unfortunately, those are the majority. The majority who had nothing, they even say, come and join us and share the pains of depravity and all of that. So I commute every weekend from Boya to Douala on Fridays. And when I have to definitely leave on Sunday, by all means. And you see the mad rush at the level of the exit to the town of my 17. You start asking yourself, how can people voluntarily accept? I don't want to go to the other nitty-gritty or the fact that some other element has come now that you have to compare. Because there are people whose role now is just to stay inside somewhere and wait to, whether it's harming you, just like you join them by all means, whether you like it or not. We cannot exclude that. But I'm saying the primordial element, if you want to say the motive, is to pass a message. And you say again, besides the fact that we go through the normal democratic tools of using whether it's a referendum or popular vote to decide whether, because people say, so who mandated you? Who did all of this? But in the case of what we are facing now, it is a form of anarchical situation where you find that you find the power changing hands, not in the form of a real coup d'etat, but in a civil strife, where the general citizen, the population, sees the power from where it belongs, and actually use it, and actually pose their precondition now and say, we can only do this. And I'm happy with Sama when he was talking about changing of strategy. I've always told people that you can never hold tight to extremism, because it's just extremism and conservatism, they are all bad. If conservatism is bad, extremism is worst. So you find that those who are enforcing ghost town outcomes, in fact, I heard someone was talking about another issue of announcing his own ghost town. He said it has become an anarchy. Somebody having known how to use the mobile phone now to record a message, just record it. And then there are people who are just blindly saying that we will not be here. If you come out, we will. And you actually see people personally angry somebody painted a scenario. So I want to say, like somebody said one time, you know, the president of the National Assembly said one time, le Boko Haram song parmi nous. You'll be surprised that we might be seeing inside here. We also have people who are enforcing ghost town among us who are still steady here. So that you see a young man, I was painted a picture how he saw somebody a few minutes in a washing point, washing cars. All of a sudden, he saw that same person being chased by a gendarme in another attire. And then all of a sudden, when the gendarme could not see him, after he had gone and hid himself and then changed his dress and combed his hair and come out, he went back to his washing point. So that's how this thing has happened now. But I am saying that nobody wins in this type of game. It's going to be a lose-lose type of thing. And I want to say, somebody painted a situation scenario. Cameroon's largest trading partner is Nigeria. And when you look at the economic, what you might call now economic sabotage, you find the same people who are talking about no development, digging roads, trenches, no vehicles pass. And the paradox I want to also say, which is unique in Boya, since in Bamenda and in other towns they have been declaring curfew, they never ban what they call taxis, whether motorbikes. But uniquely Boya, people, I am asking myself, where are these gentlemen who were riding the bikes? Where have they gone to? Because they are still in the town, and when you make somebody who is idle, nature does not like a vacuum. The person is going to turn around and get something doing. And let us always be moving our strategy. Fine, we say that dialogue at the macro level is a bit looking like a far. Dialogue has begun at the local level. Let the dialogue that is coming out at the level of the Boya Council become a dialogue of win-win.
Right. We will be getting a report on the Pacific dialogue, the all-inclusive dialogue that Boya Council initiated. But before we get there, let me bring you in, Mr. Ako Baldwin. The collateral damage caused by ghost town has been enormous. I mean, we can reminiscent our mind on that fateful July the 2nd, when over 6 buses were burned in mile 17. Many buses were burned, and the following Monday, the trend of burnings continued, and many people have lost their lives too. Notwithstanding, we still have people who are tempted to show some good faith by selling or doing some things, who received threats and kidnappings, and all of that took place. Let us look at the economic effects. If you can articulate an economic perspective on the effects of ghost town so far on business persons, what would that be?
Mr. Yanick, before I move into that, we are where we are today as a result of frustration of the people. The people are frustrated because they cannot benefit from the God-given natural resources. The people are frustrated because they are not included in the political system of the nation. That is why we are at this particular stage. A lot of businesses are being affected at the level of the northwest and southwest regions, not going to work on a Monday, sometimes on the Tuesdays. I'm coming from Bumaka. Even on Tuesdays, it's difficult for a lot of people to leave for you to leave from your house that you're going to work. I met one of my friends a couple of weeks ago. He was with Sacks and Moto. I asked him that, my brother, where are you going to? He said, I'm on my way to work with a Sacks and Moto. He cannot even take his laptop to the office. You know, it's difficult for us to function in the current environment. It's extremely difficult. The output of most Cameroonians has dropped. Most businesses, you have to pay rents. Why you can't even sell anything at the end of the day. There are a lot of places whereby businesses are locked, you know, for like Monday, Tuesdays, and sometimes even on Wednesdays. They work for just 2 days. So imagine what is happening if you have a family. If you have a family and you are surviving from such a business. You have a lot of young guys who have gone into businesses. You know, some of them are having cafeterias. that they survive on those cafeterias, and they're having a family of 4 or 5 kids. You know, what can they do? Nothing. Most of those businesses are supposed to operate at night, but it's difficult for them. What do you expect from those young people? That's why we are seeing the rate of armed groups is going up. A lot of guys have gone into armed groups, and it's becoming extremely difficult for the young people.
Right. Okay, now let us watch two faces of same coin in this report. I'm talking about the reactive and the proactive era of the ghost town period. We watch the reactive era. The mayor of the Boya Council, in reacting to the ghost towns just a week after the July 2nd reinstitution of ghost town, closed down all shops and indicated that until these business operators would sign an undertaking with the council saying that they will open their shops on Mondays and work, then they would not, of course, have their shops open, irrespective of moves that these business operators did along the week. They stayed for an entire week without opening their shops. The tires of taxis were deflated, and so on and so forth. Now, he met with these business persons preceding this action, and this is what he told them. Let's watch this first report.
The business community in the Boya municipality has been assured by the mayor of Boya, Ekima Patrick Esunge, that the security of their property and person is under control, as special measures have been taken to guarantee their safety. He called on interurban transporters, township taxis, and commercial motorbike riders unions to organize themselves to overcome the fear that has gripped their respective sectors recently. In a press briefing at the council chambers, the mayor made it very clear that he will not tolerate any economic indiscipline from business persons, especially those using council shops and markets on Mondays, as he himself has promised to be in the markets and on the roads with taxis this coming Monday.
All the business, we have been assured by the various forces of law and order security operatives to inform you that they are there to protect you, protect your business, assure you of your security, and assure you of the protection of your homes and property.
The mayor took time to listen to the worries expressed by the population in different forms and encouraged them to organize themselves so that in a collaborative manner, they could overcome any existing threats on their life and property. Commercial bike riders, in a separate meeting with the mayor, were challenged to organize their sector and fish out those using their trade to foment trouble. In this line, they are expected within 72 hours to all get members registered and identified, and also to use the union jackets, amongst others, or face the strong arm of the law. This move by the mayor of Boya comes within the backdrop of a series of unfortunate happenings in Boya and the resurgence of the ghost town that was considered dead and buried in Boya. The town of Boya, according to the mayor, Ekima Patrick Esunge, can only grow and meet its developmental objectives when the town is peaceful, an aspect that can be made possible only through the concerted efforts of the population through frank exchanges and dialogue like the convened forum for the day.
That was the mayor Ekima Patrick there. That was just a week after that was even before the 2nd of July. That was on the 28th of June that he had this meeting with these business operators. And on the 2nd of July, the mayor went around all the premises of Boya, the business premises, closed down shops, banks, and what have you. And it states for 1 week, these business persons did not operate in retaliation for them respecting ghost towns. Well, fortunately or unfortunately, The mayor's reactive measures seem not to have yielded any fruits, as these business premises, even after being granted access to their business premises, continue to respect ghost towns, and it was even intensified more than ever. Now, the mayor, together with some business persons, met again in another meeting, and it appears there is some proactive move there to curb ghost towns. This time around, the Lord Mayor met with business operators, economic stakeholders in Boya, and sought to know how they can advert and completely eliminate ghost town from Boya. And after these persons said what they said, the mayor said he will heed to all they have indicated to avert ghost towns. Let's take a watch. Business operators in Boya have expressed cautious optimism over the resolve to resume economic activities in the municipalities on Mondays, infamously appellated as Ghost Towns Day. Meeting in an enlarged, all-inclusive and pacific dialogue that held at the Boya Council Deliberative Chambers Thursday, 27th of December 2018, different stakeholders identified all challenges impeding the resumption of economic activities on Mondays while charting a way forward.
Our problem mostly is the drivers, so we are begging them to try and work, and we'll work with police and channel. Total and serious harassment. If you go to some isolated area like Ukwango, where you have bending corners, a logic control, if you don't give them 25,000 francs, it becomes a problem. Because they all know that they don't have documents. And we are willing to work. Things are not moving. We don't have money to pay those documents. At the same time, we'll be harassed by police, gendarmes, or unknown persons. We don't lose bosses. We don't go more than 10 buses. We are going to go for 1 week. We just try to beg council and government. And I said, one bus about 10 million. We are going to lose 2 buses for 1 week. You can't never get strong for their life. They don't grow money. They don't want their bus at all. Who's ever get that kind of money for buying a bus again? So when we hear that, say they come, no man will get it wrong. No man will remain. And one please with our council. If we present these drivers, they don't lose their taxi, make administration see how they support them, encourage them, so that we all stand for road talk, say no, nothing this way council don't do for our brother, they don't lose their taxi. Everybody will stand up for face the challenge.
On his part, the mayor of the Boya municipality and convener of this Mea Kupal gathering told the economic operators to shun aside fear and uncertainties and resume business operations on Mondays.
We came up with 8 resolutions, amongst which the business community expressed need for the council to readjust the schedule on the market days in our various markets, especially the Boya Town market and the supermarket. We have resolved that we are going to look into it, and a communique will be sent to the radio and copied to the various market groupings on the new programming as per their request. The second category has to do with township transporters who complained bitterly on spontaneous controls by forces of law and order. And we have assured them that we are going to approach the administration to ensure that the controls are more on security aspects rather than the documentation aspect of the taxi drivers, given that the general business community has suffered a severe setback for 2 years. There should be some tolerance and more of communication with the transporters to ensure that they meet up with their taxes rather than extorting money, which would have helped them to defray these costs. We're going to approach the administration, who in return, we are quite optimistic, will approach the forces of law and order. The second complaint they gave had to do with insecurity. In the same vein, we are going to write to a hierarchy, the administration, to increase various forces of law and order control spots, especially within the Moya, Mavio, Bomaka, my 16, my 14, and my 15 vicinities, to give an assurance to the township taxi drivers as well as highway transporters.
He promised to be at the center of bringing normalcy in the business ecosystem while appealing for general assistance from the population. The streets seem very busy this day, but unfortunately on Mondays it is quite empty, and it goes far beyond transportation to include even business premises. This is the new normal that has been existing in Boya, like in other parts of the Northwest and Southwest region, since July, when the ghost town syndrome started. The mayor of the Boya Council used all methods he could to cajole the business operators to resume work so that they occupy the streets and bring Boya to the steam economically that it deserves. Unfortunately, much of that have not picked up steam, not until he calls them for a pacific dialogue. Will this one yield fruit? Will the streets of Boya be as busy as they have always been on Mondays? We are waiting to see. Boya first experienced an effective ghost town on July 2, 2018. In spite of some toughened measures instituted by the municipal administrators to suppress the economic meltdown, the greater majority of the population downed their tools and stayed indoors. Whether or not this new and more subtle approach from the municipal council will yield any fruit is just a matter of time. Right. We've seen clearly how the municipal authorities of Boya have tried using all possible means to curb, completely eliminate ghost towns in Boya. Of course, how this new measure would be effective, this Monday will tell us how that will be. And just to say that various economic operators in the municipality are holding caucus meetings to discuss on how to, in their own bid, work on Monday, which, of course, is a progressive move. Mr. Sama, you want to say something?
Yes. Again, as I said earlier, I am happy that the mayor has come to self-realization and acknowledgement of the fact that that which has occupied the whole of the mall is far bigger than the mall itself. And so the mall has to negotiate for its entry. The ghost town cannot be personified. The ghost town is like a spirit, an Anglophone resistance spirit. There is no gainsaying that in some areas there is the element of force and compulsion that is used, threat to destruction of businesses, as we have seen in some places. But as Mr. Mufo said, it's like the only weapon in the hands of some persons, and they think that if we lose this one, we shall never have another bargaining chip again. I am happy, again, as I said, and I want to congratulate the lead mayor for coming down and humbling himself and realizing the fact that the same people that he was punishing, he was simply just adding salt to their injury. And because they did not initiate it, and they were only respecting what some other forces bigger than them were enforcing. My worry is when I listen to the mayor talk about security guarantees, I'm a bit worried. I observed the mayor supervising the cleaning of the streets in Boya. I think it was yesterday, or was it today? Today, he was well protected with armed soldiers. I wonder whether we would have those same armed soldiers protecting businesses, bike riders, and taxis. Remember, there was a time in this municipality when the mayor, in his aggressive attempt to combat ghost towns, introduced municipal taxes. How far did that method go? It didn't work, because for now, those taxis eventually, some were vandalized, some were burnt, And they finally phased out. And so I think that it is a good initiative that he has resorted to dialogue with the victims of ghost towns, amongst whom we may have perpetrators of the phenomenon. But let those around the mayor learn from him and see dialogue as the only way out. There is no way out. We can go around this bigger crisis, not only within Boya municipality, but within the nation as a whole, without dialogue being our instrument.
Right. Now, let me bring you in, Mr. Sebastian Kufo. You are joining us. You are a lawyer. And of course, we are very happy that you are joining us at this moment. Tell us, the government promised Cameroonians, especially denizens of the Northwest and Southwest region, that they would be protected 100%. And there's been some questionable periods that the security is not guaranteed, especially with respect to burnings. But most especially, it's about the killings that occurred on Ghost Towns Day. We quite remember, so I think it was on the 14th of July 2018, when some 4 denizens of Sandpit or Bakre Town were murdered in cold blood. Some say they were drug addicts, others say they were just idling around. 2 others were killed at Street 2 in Great Sopor, and this spate of killings have been attributed to one end of the warring factions. How do we assess government security measures during periods like this?
Thank you very much, Mr. Yanick, for giving me the platform and the opportunity to be here again on Hitv. May I remind you that we stand in the logo for strength of the youth, and together I want to believe that the youth are the eye viewers and the people who have the solution to every crisis that is rocking the present situation now in the country. With that note, let me push on this, Mr. Yanick. First of all, it's nice you said, I want to put it under this, that it's an allegation that it's an end that is not justifiable, which means evidence of their death per se has not been proven on who is the author of it or who is not the author. So it is surrounded by mystical circumstances that cannot be proven, because all what we could get was a hearsay issue, which was not a direct evidence, and per se, no eyewitness on that platform could have given us a direct account of what transpired on that day. Let's come back to what Ghost Town generally is. Sitting here with so many men I respect so much, some of them I passed through their hand. Whatever I am today, they contributed a lot, like Mr. Sama sitting there. Is one of the persons who struggled to make me what I am today. So sitting in a panel with them, I respect them so much, and I want to go with the line of the contribution they have given about Ghost Town. With that, I want to quote from Idi Amin Dada. Idi Amin said, the word freedom or liberation is just to bring another oppressor. And in that context, we want to say, if a policy is being instituted, you institute policy because you are awaiting the results. Any policy have an expectation. And the expectation, like what he was saying before the panel goes on, that there's always a phase of evaluation. You have that phase of evaluation to see if you are achieving the goals or you are not achieving the goals. So the first implementation of Ghost Town is, what was it all stated to achieve? We want to say the days of the consortium when Ghost Town was instituted, we want to say there was a general Anglophone spirit of resistance towards the aspect of marginalization, which is a fact that is existing and not just a mere allegation that Anglophones have been marginalized. The Anglophone community see a reason to opt as one-man squad team to tell the government that we want a redress to situation that is plaguing our society, our cultural inheritance, and our background. That should be addressed. We saw it that Agbobala, by then, the sitting president of the outdated consortium, as of now, did not need to threaten anybody. It was a conviction. It was a spirit that every person feel united to pass that message when they say it's a message passed over to the government. But when we look at the present day circumstances of the Ghost Town, it gives for $1,000 question for you to ask, what is it standing to achieve? By then, you see, people willfully decide not to sell. People willfully decide not to drive their cars. We want to see a situation here that people are under duress to respect certain situations. They begin to ask that if the principle of democracy is something we long for, and if it is something we are claiming that you don't give me that freedom of expression and that freedom of movement, and that is what is making me, I am challenging you, and you per se cannot give that liberalism for people to help what they want to say. up what they want to do, then there's a question mark if to see your intention, the genuinity of your intention on what actually you're doing. I want to say, whatever time you are defending people, there is a parameters you use in your calculation. If you're fighting for me, my welfare is your top priority. Why? Because you're defending me. If you are my defender, my top priority. We'll look at a situation here that the ghost town phenomenon per se is not just causing an economic hardship, but it goes a very long way to deprive people and it's causing starvation. It goes a very long way to make people losing their businesses and losing their source of finances. That is something we should be looking up to. So with that dimension, we begin to ask, what are the rationales behind the ghost town aspect? I want to say, in an aspect of crisis solution, or looking forward to make your point being known, being politically or being diplomatically, there is not just one option. You have options, because in the table in the table of challenge, the first thing is your first option may not give you your hitting target. So what are the subsequent options that you have to? When Ni John Fundi instituted the ghost town in the 1990s, there was what he wanted the government to look into. He wanted multipartism, which was launched, to have its grounds, and other subsidiaries of the government and laws to be changed in order to favor the common man. There was a duration of time the SDF had it. If this is not going to work, what next comes in? But we have a policy that has been put on for an indefinite period of time, and you don't see what it is. Every day it brings people bankrupt. Every day it makes people losing their job. We are talking about the government acting proactive or reacting to the issue of ghost town. We can't blame the government. At a situation, it comes a time you want to find solution, and finding solution, there is no actual aspect you can say is a key to a particular problem. Solution is always a try by error incident. You begin to improvise. What do I do at this moment? It fails. And that is what the mayor of Boya has been doing. He has been coming up with different strategies and they have been failing. They have been failing, which is a good aspect. They say if you never try, you will never do it. So he has been looking forward. The perpetrators of ghost town at this moment, what is their way forward? Is their way forward that they are just happy to see people locked up? When I was in Yaoundé on the Faithful Christmas, which is a celebration that the whole world do celebrate, I want to say that you keep people locked into their houses, they cannot commune with families, they cannot celebrate, and you say you're fighting a just cause for those people. My brother, let's be realistic. At times we come on air, we struggle to hit just at the government, but we should be struggle to rationalize the aspect that
nobody stops you from hitting on the other side.
And
so that's why you
we
have
are
the
saying
freedom.
that we are rationalizing the aspects.
Rationalizing.
Who are the people involved and what are the dimensions are you doing? Keeping people indoors on a celebration day, how does it help a cause? You are fighting for me, you're seizing my freedom. You are fighting for me, you are starving me. You are fighting for me, you are putting me under house imprisonment. So how do I trust you? So you see now the population is standing on a particular issue because the government by itself has lost the trust. The people have lost trust in the government. So it is not a new thing that the people don't have trust in the government. You came up and you wanted to be trusted. Now the people are like the victim. They are the victims, not like the victims. Like there is this analysis that when two elephants are fighting, the grass suffer. Because now the people are like Humpty Dumpty. If the government say, hey, we go this way. This I say, hey, you get me. So where is the stand of the people? So this is a message I am passing out that the perpetrators of the ghost town to carry out their evaluation. There are different policies that can be put in place. That is not going to hurt the people. I want to say that the aspect of ghost town has been a failure. By my calculation, it has been a failure. Why? It has caused more hardship than the people ever bargained for. It has caused more misery than the people ever anticipated for. It has caused an untold condition that cannot be described by mere words. So this is something the people, the perpetrators of it, should get back to the drawing board. Struggle to look. They should cut their teeth and dot their eyes and get the tail of their wise. Because it is a principle, they need a different direction that should be going. For example, let me put it this way. Some people still say that
you come back to your intervention and give a broader picture. Just add more flesh to what you want to say. Let me bring in Mr. Mufo before you come in. Mr. Mufo, you wanted to say something?
Yes, he brought in a very important element in project management. You see, there are no two projects which are the same. You might have the same mechanism, the same resources, but the results are always different. Now, the elements that there are three considerations which are, they call them project constraints. You have cost, time, and scope. Now, with the context of what is happening now, the scope is the fact that the Southwest and the Northwest, as a geographical entity, they are all respecting a particular modus operandi on Monday. But again, the cost of that element has never been taken into consideration. Talk less of a time. And every project does not go on indefinitely without you coming and reassessing. Now, again, even the originators, I am sure even the originators of the whole concept of Ghost Town, they are asking themselves now that where were we, what was supposed to be the outcome of all these Ghost Town, and how long, how soon? Because even when you hear even some people who are communicating from Europe and the US, they will say that we are winning. Are we really winning? Are we really winning? Well, let's be honest, because we are not saying that the cause is not whatever genuine for whatever democratic reason that they have. But again, let us reassess, and that's not the only strategy that we can bring a government down if that is our objective. Right. But let us communicate in another way. We cannot use one particular. Tomorrow you will have more. Let me just end by saying that I remember in 1986 when we were striking in Bamenda, the governor then, Bel Rene, he said, you guys are supposed to write GC. You are not striking on the streets, you are boycotting classes and all of that. If the person that you are striking against is not the head of state of this country, he is from ENAM, and a different person comes, they will still look for somebody who has gone to ENAM and come out and appoint, whether they send him to Molundu, he will still be earning a salary. The only measuring rod that we use to appoint us is a paper diploma that you have for going to school. And in that particular case, I'm passing this message. There are a lot of people in the periphery who have not gone to school for 2 years. Whatever is going to happen, I have people in my family who from 1990, what happened in Yaoundé, they abandoned their studies in the university. Up to today, they are the most angered people that if you just try anything about revolution, they will just want to tell you, don't start because my life is a failure today because I foolishly joined a bandwagon and today I don't know where I belong. So this message we are sending out, we are moving towards the eve of another year. Let us redesign whatever strategy we want to have. We can catch a rat by using different methods, not just the one method always.
Right. Okay, let me bring in Mr. Busi. He is a psychology instructor in the University of Boya. He's joining us, he's joining the panel this day. Mr. Busi, I cue you in with this question. The diaspora seems to be losing the grip on control, especially on ghost towns. We have been following the papers and even analyzed on this platform where the diaspora had announced, a faction of the diaspora announced that December was dedicated to no ghost towns. There was suspension of ghost towns. And another faction came in and said the ghost towns will be affected and will not be suspended. And because of this confusion, all of this anarchy, the ghost town seems to be having its jigsaw puzzle. Do you think anybody is in control of these ghost towns, or people just take actions and do their things the way they want?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mojector, for inviting me into the program. I want to say that the people who initiated the ghost town, they thought it was a problem, it was a solution to the Anglophone crisis, not knowing that one day it will become a very psychological problem, because the issue now is that they have divided views, and their divided views in leadership is affecting the Anglophone crisis and the ghost town phenomenon. And if I want to look at it in greater perspective, I will tell you that what is happening now is the fact that the ghost town phenomenon is already part and parcel of the life of the people. The ghost town phenomenon also, the people are already adapted to the ghost town. They are trying to readjust their lifestyle. They have readjusted their lifestyle into the ghost town issue, and it's becoming part and parcel of them. Whether the leader says there's no ghost town or not, the fear, anxiety is still there among the people. The emotion is still there among the people. The anxiety is still there among the people, because they have adapted to a kind of life already. On a ghost town day, whether you tell me to go out, I will not go outside, because I'm already adapted, because the environment is not secure. First of all, the people have prepared their mind in such a way that on a Sunday day, they buy their foodstuff and they stock their houses, and it's already they are already adapted to it. And I'll also talk into an educational perspective. Those of us who are teachers also, because of the fear, most teachers also have adapted to ghost town day. Mondays, you hardly see teachers and students going to school. and they have readjusted their timetables and they are meeting up on Saturdays. So the ghost town issue is not more controlled by the leaders, but the people. The people are already psychologically adapted. It's an issue of adjustment. And when people are adjusted to a way of life, it's difficult for them now to come out of it. The only solution is when they will come to, this crisis must have weakened down to dialogue. So until the government put the people into a roundtable conference and they discuss the burning issues before you will see the people going out. So the leaders out there, the leaders in the diaspora are not more in control because the people are psychologically adapted to the crisis. They have adjusted themselves. So the fear phenomenon is there, the anxiety is there, the emotions is there, so the depression is there, the stress is there. So you hardly see people going outside because the only issue is that they are adapted to the lifestyle. That's all. They are adapted to the lifestyle. Whether you, the leader, tells them that today's no ghost town, they are already adapted to the lifestyle. All right. So they solve the crisis before you see them going out.
Okay. Let me bring in the politician in the house. Mr. Njomo Cyril is a politician. He militates for the Cameroon Renaissance Movement. Mr. Njomo Cyril, besides the ripple effect of ghost towns on the economy of the people of Southwest and Northwest region, I'd like you to do comparative analysis between the ghost towns in the Northwest and Southwest region with that called by your chairman, Maurice Kamto, on the 8 other regions of the country. Whether it has been effective, it's been 2 months now and nothing seems to be happening with respect to that. Let's talk about ghost towns.
Thank you, Mr. Yanick, for the opportunity you are giving to the Cameroon Renaissance Movement of Professor Maurice Kamto to talk about the issue of ghost town. Permit me first of all congratulate all our veteran members on the platform. I have witnessed something today that is a life-changing to see senior panelists leave space for younger panelists. Is an example that is showing that the society is really developing, and that is exactly what President Paul Kagame emphasized more on during the last National Development Stakeholders meeting in Kigali, Rwanda, last December 13 to 14. It is important that everybody who is holding a position of responsibility should understand that giving opportunity, saving spaces for future generation is much more important than whatever he thinks he can offer to the society. Having said that, ghost town is a good thing. It is good faced to a tyrannic situation, faced to a tyrannic government. It is good to resist and peacefully. Rather than carrying arms, ghost town is important. And people should not be counting but their economic benefits. They should not be counted because all of us in this country, whether the ones that have job or those who do not have, we are all locked up. Until I had a guest this morning who was telling me that there is a community in Rwanda that only knew education, formal education in 2005, and you want to go and compare the standard of living they are having there as of now. Kagame decided to sponsor every citizen in that village with 600 million for over 10 years, and today they are better off. They build houses and furnish the houses and put them there. When a country is led by somebody who only think about himself and the family, all of us, we are navigating in doom. This education system we are having is not the best, and that's why people see ghost town and they are counting by their pocket. But no, even if ghost town was to extend for 5 days, and that at the end of that process, the government is reduced, the government economic power is reduced, the government political power is reduced, it will be good because that revolution would emerge a new a series of leaders, of entrepreneurs who will lead the country towards reducing poverty and curbing corruption. Those are the 2 ills that is destroying our economy. So I don't advocate that there should be no ghost town, because even if we work 7 days on 7 with a corrupt system, it is only the half who will continue to prosper at the detriment of the half not. So for me to learn, the call of Professor Kamto, somebody earlier echoed that knowing the Bamileke counterparts who so much care about their businesses, they were not to follow. No, it is difficult for people to understand the strengths of revolution. And if the Anglophone community today understand it, is because when they see the government maneuvers, the government techniques, the government politicizing every decision to appease the territory, they just understand that it's better they trust again the independence. But I want to tell them today that there's an agenda better more than the separatist agenda. That is that of the federalists, who think that through the pooling system we can change a tyranny system. And time does not matter. You can use the case of Rwanda. No matter the time it took for them to have alternative, when Paul Kagame finally came in, they started marching through the right direction. And in Africa, we can count very few countries that have been able to earmark development up to the standard of Rwanda. So to conclude, Yanick, because I don't want to take a lot of time, I want to encourage us that if come 2019, if Pobia want to continue with this measure of suppressing the people, we should take even 5 days goes down. There's no problem with that until the rich people feel the pains of that goes down. Because we the poor, we're already used to it. I, for instance, every Monday, I'm comfortable doing alternative activities at home. It will be difficult for that rich man who has been so used. Imagine that Douala could observe even just 2 hours goes down per day. And you can only get there through sensitization. We should not be crying for economic challenges.
Okay, Mr. Linue Clovis, you're also joining us at the moment. What is the way forward? There is this very loud trumpeting sounds echoing across the municipality of Boya, but also the other 13 divisions of Boya, for the citizens to drop ghost towns and resume work normally, because it is affecting the other 4 days, or the 4 days. People no longer see the other days worthy, because Monday, which is a start day, it's already taken out of the calendar. So what do you think is the way forward?
Yeah, thanks very much, fellow panelists and High TV team. I think the issue of ghost town, we started that January 9, 2017. I tried to bring out the analysis of ghost town from that January 2017 to present, today, December 2018. Anglophone have lost some 120 days indoors. That's a total of 3 months without working as a result of ghost town. I think that is a very great economic effects on the Northwest and Southwest and the Cameroon government as a whole. We quite remember what GCAM, the report given by GCAM, and even the parliament about what the economic consequences of the Anglophone crisis. Billions of money have been lost in 2014 when Cameroon government was crying of 6 billion francs lost as a result of Boko Haram. People thought that maybe it's something, a huge amount. But today, 2018, what has been spent as a result of the ongoing crisis far more than what happened when they were fighting against the terrorist Boko Haram activities in the far north region of Cameroon. I think many measures have been put in place by this the government itself as well as the mayor of Boya to put an end to ghost town. My fellow panelists, Mr. Sama Elamen, mentioned of a certain time where they bought taxes. At the end of the day, I don't know where the taxes are today. And at a certain time again, he took illegal measure, we call illegal measure, whereby he will move from one place to another, shutting down the stores of people, or forcing them to open it in order to make sure that there is nothing like ghost town. But still yet, nothing has been done. And at a certain time that they have called commercial bike riders, taxi drivers on many occasions, and tell them or inform them that they should continue with their activities normally on Mondays, but still nothing happened, Mr. Moderator. I think following what my fellow panelists earlier said, one panelist made it clear that he or she is not seeing the goal in ghost town, but I think the ghost town is not only affecting the people of Northwest and Southwest, it is also affecting the government of Cameroon. And if it is affecting the government of Cameroon, what other steps is the government taking to end this ghost town? I think it's not a matter of fighting against ghost town, it's a matter of fighting what brought about ghost town. We should be clear here on the platform here. When you don't come, we say ghost town affecting economy, people, what brought about the ghost town? If government, what brought the ghost town, and what is the measure government put in place to end what brought about the ghost town? I think the ghost town is affecting even the government as a whole. So we should not come here and keep on pretending by saying that ghost town is affecting my economy, ghost town, there are no goal, there's no reason behind ghost town. If there's no reason, what brought the ghost town? The government will also make sure that it put an end to the ghost town by bringing a concrete solution to that. And I think the government, just like Oliver Twist, to continue to put in place measures to end ghost town. And I was thinking, I'll keep on saying, pleading to the head of state, the power that be, that I always believe that if all those who were arrested related to ongoing crisis, we free, or if government can put a measure to make sure all of them are free. There are certain things that if government can do in relation to the ongoing crisis, it will call for the sympathy of Anglophones. I think people will pity, people will look at the government and sympathize with the government, especially related to those who have been arrested. If the government can do that, I think, Mr. Moderator, we should only be saying that ghost town is affecting us. What brought the ghost town, and what measures has the government of Cameroon be put in place to end what brought about the ghost town? I think that's what I can say then, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, let's round up this topic, and eventually, because of time, we might be wrapping up the program on these notes. Mr. Sama, you have something to say?
I think I followed Mr. Mufo when he said in every project, the ongoing Anglophone revolution is a project. There is need for evaluation and revision of strategies. Fortunately, I am not a policy maker on any of the camps. I'm just a commentator. I observe and I comment. I think it would be utter dishonesty for the government to pretend that nothing is happening. It is not only the economy of the municipality of Buea that is affected. It is not only the economy of the two regions that are affected. It's the economy of the whole nation. And I wonder how many councils in these two regions were able to or have been able to engage in full tax recovery as per their budget at the start of the year. None. Not even Buea. I wonder the last time council tax collectors last visited Munya Market. I wonder the last time council tax collectors went around businesses to enforce tax collection. It's impossible. And so it's sheer dishonesty and bad faith on the part of those who govern us to pretend that the ghost town is an issue for the Northwest and the Southwest, and it is not affecting them, and that it is not affecting the nation as a whole. Whether it is enforced, whether it is respected out of force or it is respected out of conviction, the fact that remains is that there is ghost town, and it is affecting us negatively. It is not for me to call on those who instituted that they should stop. It is not for me to tell this government what to do, but I think that the government, again, as I often say, knows what it is supposed to do. I am very happy, again, as I said, and I will continue to say it, I am happy with the turn and the revision of strategy, of approach by the #1 citizen of Buea municipality, who has realized that the population are not the cause of ghost town, but they are just the victims, like himself. And I pray that he continues in that trajectory to side with the victims rather than further deepening their suffering. But unfortunately, given the cacophony that reigns now within the ranks of the Anglophone activists, we may not in the nearest future see an end to ghost town. It is likely to continue for a much longer period because there are so many different stakeholders involved who call for ghost towns, even if not for the interest, for the success of the revolution, for their own interest. But ghost towns, we may not see them end anytime so soon.
Thank you very much, dear panelists. It is time for us to read what our audience have been writing. Our viewers have been writing a lot, and Shivilet Egbe Eno is present to give for us what the viewers have been writing. Thanks for coming, Shivilet.
Thank you very much for having me, Mr. Fonki.
Right, what have the viewers been saying?
Well, I've been saying quite a lot, and this message is from Mr. David in Tico. It says, "Good day to you all in the studio. Please, I do not understand how the government is handling this crisis. If they are unable to handle it, then they should consult experts in this domain. We don't need emergency humanitarian plan or setting up one committee to another. That is not what we need now, please. I still maintain that real and inclusive dialogue shouldn't be out of the country." That's from Mr. David in Tico. We move over to Pang Guane from Great Support Boya. Please, Anglophone crisis or Anglophone problem, can you take time to clarify your viewers? Personally, I say some issues have been engulfing the stakes in Northwest and Southwest regions for the past years. So do give us the difference between problem and crisis. This one is from an unknown sender, and we always say, please try to write your name and where you're writing from. This one says, the government shows bad faith, and Minister Atanganji has been very instrumental in this bad faith. How can a few houses be burned down in Bagorin? He rushed there in less than 24 hours, but has not visited hundreds of villages in the Anglophone territory. This one is from Elvis. Motorbikes were banned in Manfe by the SDO, but the military there were the ones who pleaded with the SDO to remove the ban because the riders were joining the separatists. The earlier the mayor brings back bike riders, the better. This one is from Emmanuel in Boya. Good day, gentlemen. I just want to say, if the military men could be killed by the separatists, what more of the civilians? They should stop telling us that we are protected, but we are still perishing every day. They should kill the root and not curtain the branches if they want to kill the tree. I love your program. This is from David again in Tico. Ghost Town is really having some negative effects, but also has some positive effects. He says the negative effects are businesses are down, but the positive effects are couples get to see each other more often. But in general, we need to get out of this situation, and real and inclusive dialogue is the first step. Now we move to Seth Tebo from Mile 14. Greetings to the panel. There is no sweet without sweat, no gain without pain. The pains of the ghost town is a necessary evil to the people because it's a major way to frustrate government's smokescreen solutions to the crisis. One thing which remains certain is that the people have already adapted to the ghost town days. The only way to stop it is for the president to call for a dialogue with the Anglophone leadership. And that's what the people were talking about behind the scenes.
Okay, quite interesting. Thank you very much, Yanick. It's a happy new year to you. Only see you next year.
Happy New Year, right?
Yeah, we want to give a shocking, not shocking, but surprising announcement to the televiewers that because of popular demands and quite going against the norms, we, on Monday, the 31st of December 2018, before the president's speech, and even after the president's speech, we shall be entertaining a restricted number of calls from our televiewers, especially those who have been trying to call us, so they can also give their opinions. They can also analyze whatever we shall be discussing from the comfort of their homes. So you want to catch us live on Hitv on Monday. Right, it is on this note, dear televiewers, that we place a cap on today's edition of the program. We want to thank you immensely for paying attention. We shall try to round up with the year in retrospect before 2018 runs out. We meet again on Monday, the very last edition on panel discussion programs on Hitv before New Year. I am Yanick Fonki, and I want to thank all the panelists who joined the panel today to make this program a success. We also want to thank Ngwan Kainis for patiently manning the broadcasting studio and producing us quality images, while we also had JC Ngu, who also manned the cameras. We want to thank him. We want to thank Mr. Eno Humphrey for putting together the logistics and also supervising the program. We shall meet again, and until we do, it's bye-bye.